Hello, I'm Dr. Lance Morris, and welcome to my weekly YouTube posting. This is number 22 of an ongoing series. Again, I want to emphasize my belief in no accidents, no coincidences, and no punishment. Perception of punishment is confusion about karma and the law of cause and effect. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Sedona is famous for being a hotbed of paranormal phenomenon. The evening of our expulsion, there were a series of globes of light dancing above the closest sandstone monolith above the VVS campus called Napoleon. These globes danced for upwards of a full hour and were seen by everyone on campus. This unprecedented display was dramatic, and although during the years I attended VVS, I witnessed dancing globes of light on multiple occasions. Nothing compared to the scope and length of this current display, and never for such a large audience. Was there some sentinel connection with this display and our immediate removal from campus? As my life journey has progressed, I would suggest such a causal relationship is warranted. When I was expelled, I tried to reach out to my parents to alert them of my situation. It was usual for them to be in some jungle or desert somewhere in the world, as my dad was a field zoologist specializing in herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians, and ichthyology, the study of fish. He was often collecting living specimens for the aquariums and zoos of the world. Growing up, my parents would often take me on their expeditions. Needless to say, in this case, they could not be reached. I was always very self-assured and independent. We had a home in Tucson, so I got myself there and registered in a public high school, Saguaro High, to finish my senior year. Although the public school system was nothing like the academic rigor at VVS, I was pleasantly surprised at the openness of my teachers to let me do independent advanced study as long as I completed the basic required classwork. I was always very academic. I often joke that my pinnacle was in 8th grade when I graduated valedictorian, president of the school, and editor of the school newspaper. There were 3 speeches at graduation. They were all mine. Fortunately for me at VVS, I discovered almost immediately that I was surrounded by academic high achievers and that I was merely average. This knocked me off my pedestal. VVS was a very progressive and liberal school. We had a parallel philosophy with Summerhill, the most progressive prep school in England. One characteristic of both schools was there were no grades issued. At the time, this was a difficult issue with colleges and universities. Since I was able to finish high school in a public school system, I was able to submit my 4.0 grade average with my college applications. Since I was expelled from VVS for behavior and not academic reasons, all my teachers wrote glowing recommendation letters for me. I believe that the totality of this situation actually helped me get into the school of my choice. By the time my parents returned to this country, I had graduated high school and already been accepted into the college of my choice, Swarthmore, a Quaker school in Pennsylvania. I was always an avid student of philosophy and spirituality. I had become particularly enamored of the work of Soren Kierkegaard. He lived between 1813 and 1855. He is often considered the father of existentialism and was fundamentally a Christian mystic. I wanted to study with a Kierkegaardian scholar, and after some research realized that the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. was my best bet. So I decided before my formal start of college at Swarthmore, I would spend a semester at the Catholic U. This was my first experience with so-called higher education and the beginning of a series of disillusionments. Prior to Kierkegaard, rationalist philosophers tried to use linear logic as the cornerstone to decipher and solve the mysteries of existence. Kierkegaard believed that reason alone was insufficient to solve this puzzle. One of Kierkegaard's primary tools for teaching was indirect communication. This was his version of the Socratic method of posing a series of questions to help people individually determine their own conclusions or answers. Although a Christian, he made it very clear that Christianity was not the path for everyone. He identified three spheres of human existence. First, the aesthetic, basically hedonistic, being about self-indulgence and pleasure. Second, ethical, starting to take both self and social responsibility, beginning to understand good and evil. And third, religious, establishing a personal, subjective experience or relationship with the divine, what I referred to in an earlier post as William James' numinosity. Kierkegaard's crowning axiom was to become a knight of faith by taking a leap of faith, complete and total surrender to divine will, even if that guidance may be in conflict with perceived ethical conduct. Let me remind my audience of another earlier post in number 4 in the new series in which I offered a definition of faith. So let me reiterate. A state of being in which we completely suspend or stop any projection or judgment. We open our hearts and consciousness to the possibility that there is more to our lives and existence than is obvious. Our potential knowledge and awareness extend beyond what is perceived from superficial levels of our 5 primary physical senses. This key is an essential tool for us to use as we solidify, liquefy, and expand our views and perceptions. To be more fully awake and engage in a greater consciousness. It's intriguing that Kierkegaard was translated into Japanese before he was translated into English. The influence of Kierkegaard is clear in later Japanese thinkers such as Katara Nishida's attempt to create a synthesis between Eastern Buddhism thought and European philosophy. With all my reading and research about Kierkegaard, I was excited and anticipating an authentic, open academic dialogue in the hallowed halls of higher education. What I discovered instead at the Catholic University of America was a culture of authoritative and dogmatic interpretation that was not up for any discussion. And by the way, if the answers to the exam questions were not in line with the lecture notes, you will not get passing marks in this class. I was surprised and confused, but soon learned that most colleges and universities, as an undergraduate, we are in a glorified high school and regurgitation mode, regurgitating the class lessons on tests. It seems to take graduate school to actually foster and promote free and independent thinking. For clarity, VVS at the high school level was an exception, and I met my wife Maureen at Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, and at the undergraduate level, it too was an exception. Thank you for joining me. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this content. Till next week.